Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Stephanie Stevens Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Pronoun TV. I am Stephanie Stevens. I will be your host for the next 35 to 40 minutes. Today on the show, I have brought two incredible one's an activist for the trans support community, and the other one is setting up housing, a real connection to helping people rebuild their lives. So today I invited Mr. Jason Sachs from Plattsburgh, New York, and Miss Kitanya Edwards from Black Cap. She's a trans support worker, coordinator, and activist. So I just want to say, how you guys doing?
Good. How are
I'm
you?
very, I'm
I'm
very well, thank you.
wonderful. I'm so glad you guys came on to do the show today.
Thank you
So
very much for having
Thank
me.
you.
how's Plattsburgh?
Well, I'm actually in Palm Springs at the moment,
Oh, okay. So you're
but
in good
I
weather.
understand that fall is hitting beautifully there right now.
Oh yeah. So now, when are you? So let's talk to you for just a minute, Jason. Now I know that you bought a piece of property a few years ago, and you just really haven't decided what you really wanted to do with the property. But being part of the LGBT Two-Spirit pronoun community, you came up with a great idea of trans housing. How did that come about?
Well, no, we knew exactly what we wanted to do when we bought the property. Just to give you a little bit of background, I grew up very poor. I was homeless as a child. I was homeless as an adult. I know what it's like to come from nothing to have nothing. So living in a house of any kind is a big deal for me to have something that's just mine. But with this particular house, we bought it because I'm unable to work outside of the house. Sometimes I have HIV, and sometimes it gets me really bad, and I can't maintain a regular schedule. So we bought the house so that I could earn a living on my own to run it as a bed and breakfast. Please excuse me, I have a little bit of tickle.
It's
But
okay.
Plattsburgh, unbeknownst to us, is a party town. It's a college town, which is great in a way. It's a liberal town, um, but it's a bad neighborhood for a B&B. There's a frat right next door, and they helped us to throw a drag benefit once. They're not homophobic, but they're just loud, and that's not conducive to a bed and breakfast. So when that shut down, I thought, what can I do with this big house? It's 6,000 square feet. It has 9 bedrooms at minimum. It could have many more. And because of the way that I was brought up, when I was in high school and things were better, my mom ran a halfway house out of our home. So it was everybody coming out of jail, it was people coming off the street. It didn't matter who it was, we accepted everybody. And at the same time, she also ran a food bank. So that's kind of in my blood, it's in my past. So I thought, well, why not start to do something for the community with this house? And it just happened to coincide, and I hope that nobody gives me too much flack for this, but it happened to coincide with me rediscovering RuPaul's Drag Race. And the thing about Drag Race, I know it has a lot of contention in the community, but I was drawn to the activism part of it, drawn to the activism part of drag. And I thought, these are some of the bravest people that I have ever known. And I want to be amongst that. So I want to use half of the house for a drag activism space where drag queens, drag kings, anybody that celebrates and practices drag as a form of activism, they live there and they bring in people and money for whatever their awareness is. If it's Black Lives Matter, if it's for indigenous causes, whatever it is, but the queens and kings would be required to use it as an activism space. It raises money for
Okay.
the
So,
house, it raises money for whatever the cause is. The other
oh, I
half of the house
understand that.
is going to
So,
be the trans housing nonprofit. And for that, we need to begin the fundraising. And that'll be after we get our 501c3 status, nonprofit status, which is just about done, by the way. So once we have the nonprofit set up, I begin serious fundraising on a national level. And that's sort of what I'm doing in Palm Springs right now, is trying to get the connections. We're going to have 3 to 4 bedrooms available with bunk beds, so we can support, 3 to 4 people to a room if necessary. up to 12 people if we can. And these are going to be people that have been affected by homelessness because of their trans status, trying to figure out who they were. Perhaps they've been rejected by their family. Perhaps they just need to seek a new life or something of that nature. So initially, I thought it would be best for trans youth housing, because I know that there's a large youth population that often, is most affected. But I haven't worked out the kinks yet in terms of all of the support that we're going to need for that. I know that there will need to be somebody on staff there, probably 24 hours a day. I know that there are going to need to be mental health professionals involved, and I'm reaching out to all of these people now. I have therapists that might be willing to work with us on a pro bono basis. I have therapy students that might be able to stay there as a housing monitor in order to gain credit for their whatever social program work they're doing. And I've also been in touch with trans organizations in the area. One of them is the North Country Gender Alliance. Really great woman by the name of Kathy Metzger runs it. So that's basically in a nutshell what I'm trying to do. I've been on the road now for about a year trying to get this up and going, and it's been a lot of behind the scenes work and trying to contact people and saying, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think it would fly? Is Plattsburgh too remote for it? Is it going to be okay? But I thought I would give it a try. So that's kind of where we are now.
Now, I mean, you summed it up pretty good, but I want to go back to just a couple of key points. Where is your focus now with this project?
So sorry. The very first hurdle that we have to overcome is the designation of the nonprofit status, because without that, nothing else matters. I can't really go forward with this. And the reason is because while I can rent out the half of the house I want to the performers to bring in things, to bring in awareness and whatnot, that's fine. The other half of the house where I want to house people is not livable. So I have to raise funds for that. So it's kind of like I have the assets, but I don't have the money to renovate it to livable standards. And if the community can get behind me for this, we can make the project together. And I'm willing to do this for 20, 30, 40 years, if that's what it takes, probably until I die. I'm hoping that since we have no children, we can possibly leave the house to the foundation that will carry it forward. So that's my hope.
One more thing, and then I'm gonna let Kitanya, I know you're itching. I can see you have a few questions for Jason. I wanna talk about you keep saying drag queen. And I understand what you're trying to say, but we need to be clear when we're talking to a certain audience that me and Kitanya identify with and who we are trying to help. And you building a support system in the form of housing, we need to understand that sometimes we might need to identify people in a sense of just saying the LGBT two-spirit pronoun community, because it will make everybody feel inclusive. If we're talking about, there's a difference between drag and trans, but
of course, yeah, I would never wish to combine the two. I would never want to do that.
But it does intertwine in some sense, because some drag is trans. So now, Kitanya, what do you think the first thing Jason should focus on with the housing issue?
The housing issue, well, he's on the first track, he's on the right track for the homelessness, but he has to really identify, because there are two things you're targeting right now. He's targeting the drag performers and the trans. So which one is he going to focus on first the most? Is it the homeless trans girls, or the homeless trans people, or because you can't focus on both together, if you know what I'm saying. So we have to find out which one needs the most help and the ones that needs the most support. Then with that being said, you can move forward from there because you have to combine. And if I get what you're saying correctly, you said you have a section for the ones that are coming in from the dry community, and then you have the trans. So we have to find which one needs the more support and which one needs the more immediate attention. Because if you're
Sure.
going for the homeless, if you're going for the homeless trans, not because that I'm trans, I'm going to say, well, that should be your main focus because you're just looking for the drag to actually come in and, you know, generate funds or whatever the case may be. So that is where he has to determine which one he needs to focus on first and which one needs the most attention.
I understand that.
Okay. Now, Jason, now that because the reason I wanted you on the show, and Kitanya, because she's very involved in the trans community, and she has great connections and great support and great information and knowledge that can help you and make things a little bit easier for you. So I'm glad she focused on you have to make a decision on what you're going to focus on first and make that your priority.
Yes.
And then now you say the house is 6,000 square feet. What is it that you need to put this house for the LGBT Two-Spirit community, let's say, to get it going? Because the winter months are coming and the girls are going to need somewhere, the girls and guys are going to need somewhere to live.
It's not going to be ready by winter. In fact, by the kind of renovation that we're talking about is going to be pretty massive.
Okay. How much money? Just be straight up, because I do hashtag the government and I do tweet these things on their page. These things can help you. So how much money are you looking at? What is the time frame when you want to have this house open? And that is the first move.
Sure. So the house is going to need about $300,000. And that's not just going to be for repairs to make it livable. It's going to be to meet the requirements for ADA access, for anything that the city is going to require in order to house people on a public scale here. I've already been speaking with one of the city council members and about the zoning board and things of that nature. And where it go, they're not going to have any issues with it. But first, let me explain a little bit about the financial situation, and maybe that will clear things up. In spite of the fact that my husband has a good paying job, I am just on Social Security. I don't really have any money of my own. And this is my project. It's not his. I'm doing this solely on my own. So I can't rely on his money to do this. At some point, we're going to renovate this house on our own. We'll have the funds eventually, perhaps in 5 to 10 years when investments or whatever comes in, we do it ourselves. And then maybe we can open our nonprofit then. But in order to make this house livable to the standards where people can spend 6 weeks to 2 months there in the quarters for those recovering or bouncing back on their feet from homelessness or whatnot, that's going to require a significant renovation. We're talking about roof repair, drainage repair, electricity, plumbing, probably installing bathrooms, probably installing, egress points and things of that nature. So it's a massive project, and I realize that. So I guess right now I'm after the planning stage, I'm in the see if the community will support it kind of stage, because it's a 50-50. I can provide the assets and the will and the desire to make this happen. I can do all the connections. I can do all the work behind the scenes doing the contractors, but without the funding, it's not going to happen, or at least it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Okay, well, you have a perceived goal of what you want. Do you actually believe that this will work? Do you think?
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. I believe that if I want something bad enough, I can make it happen, only because of the examples in my own life. But this is not a solo project. Do I believe it? Yes. Do I necessarily believe that the community will rally behind it and support it enough to make it happen? That will remain to be seen. Right now, all I can do is get the word out, make awareness happen. I'm contacting movie stars. I'm contacting people in the drag hierarchy. I'm contacting as many people as I know that have a huge platform. I'm raising money in contests. You may have seen one about the jewelry. Make me a TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Do whatever you can right now. Not to raise money right now necessarily, but when we hit that nonprofit status, we're going to have the support of everybody in order to make
Okay,
this work.
Katanya, can you
Okay.
explain to us, because I want Jason to understand, coming from a trans woman's point of view, and the fact that you're an activist, what are some of the real challenges Jason has to make after he make a focused decision on what's going to be first? What do you think is most important that Jason should be looking to do after the focus?
After the focus, he should be looking to actually, who are you targeting first of all for your funding? Because this is going to be a lot of funding that you require, because it's going to be ongoing. So you have to actually have your funding there. And when you go out to your funders or you reach out to people who you want to fund, what is it that you're giving back to the funder? You understand? Because people
Mhm.
in this time nowadays, they always want to create a win-win situation. If I give you $75,000, what's in it for me? Where
Exactly.
I'm investing $75,000 in your housing or your project, but what is in that for me? What am I going to get? Am I going to get advertisement? Am I going to get a branding? What am I going to get? What are you going to give me? So that
Never
is
thought
something.
about that. That's perfect. Thank you.
Exactly. So when you're going after funders or you're going after funding, you have to think. Say for instance, I'm going after Walmart for funding. This is just an example. If I go after Walmart for funding and I ask them for $50,000, how are they going to benefit from me getting that $50,000? What is
Sure.
in it for them? Is it going to be taxable for them that they don't have to pay taxes on that?
Right. Yeah. And that
Are
will
we
help
going
with
to
this. Yeah.
Yeah, are we going to have a gala and we are going to invite their employees? Are we going to give them recognition? Are we going to have a plaque stating this house was built with a donation? Are we going to have them to invite them to a ribbon cutting? You have to sit down.
Wonderful.
That's why I would
Wonderful.
actually like to sit down with you and look and see how you're drafting your funding, because every time you go to a business is a create a win-win situation. I am investing this in you. What am I getting from you that I should
Sure.
put my money into this? So that is
Wonderful.
something that you have to actually look at when after you've established your first, who are you going to target? So that will be your next step. So we have to create a vision, which is what is in it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great advice. Now, Jason, now I know you are in a committed relationship, and we've all been in relationships that are up and down. How does your partner play into all this?
Well, as we like to put it in our relationship, he's the producer and I'm the director. He he will sit back on the sidelines and will enable me either through finances or through support or through whatever way he can for me to accomplish my dreams.
Okay.
So in this particular instance with the hummingbird home for golden drag, he's behind it 100%. He wants to see the house transformed into something that's going to be useful for the community. He wants to see, quite honestly, he wants me to achieve the best that I can achieve. And he wants to see me fulfill my purpose in this world. And
Okay.
for me, that's things of this nature. So,
Okay, amazing. Now, I understand how you connect to your vision. I understand how you want to reach out to other communities to make this a positive journey for everyone. But the thing I'm having a little bit of trouble with is trying to build the foundation and mainly for marginalized people is something that has to be in place, like Kitanya said, to get the proper funding or for people to show interest in your goals. Because marginalized people aren't the first people most businesses want to help. They do that, like she said, out of tax breaks. What can I do for you and what am I getting?
I think that's where the queens come in, or kings. Let me switch that delineation to performer. That's where the performers come in. In the bylaws of the nonprofit, again, half of the house being for performance, that's a collective. It's not just people living there and paying rent. In order to be a part of that collective, you have to orchestrate a performance once a month to bring in both money or awareness for the cause and or for the house. So we have to have the performance first, because otherwise the house is not going to be self-supporting. But when it comes to funding for the renovation, I don't envision I'm going to have a lot of issues with that, and I'll tell you why. The people that I've run into so far that are willing to help me, I've been blown away by the amount of support that I'm willing to get, even if it's just word of mouth. We see every day how TikTok and YouTube and things of that nature can change the world, just, if it can get the right kind of mojo going. I don't know if that will happen in this case, but I can see that there's enough interest in it to make it happen. And once we have the nonprofit status, that's when I start hammering the big stars. I want to say, hey, if you can't donate money, you need to spread the word about this. We need to get the word out. So,
I think that, do you have an active website now, an active website where people can get information? Is there an active GoFund or active something to where it's ongoing, to where you're constantly in communication with different organizations and groups that could be beneficial to the Hummingbird home?
Right now, just the Facebook page and then the Facebook fundraiser. In terms of doing a whole web page for it, I've been considering it. I'm not very technologically inclined, so I might have to find help.
Well, have you ever thought about conducting a GoFundMe page?
Because I considered it, yeah.
That would be a very good idea, because it's something that is really needed, and it's a really good project that you have taken up. To create a good GoFundMe page for that, you would actually receive overwhelming support.
Thank you. I'll do that. I'll do that today.
What demographics are you targeting? Are you, as Stephanie said, are you just targeting marginalized people? Are you targeting Caucasian, Blacks for your group? Everyone? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I can't begin to stress enough that I want the space, the campaign, our entire logic, our entire process to be about inclusion. I can't stress enough that, even though, in fact, that's kind of what is behind my vision with the performance side supporting the nonprofit side, is that there apparently was a lot of stigma between the two worlds, and I want to bring them together. So I think this will be a fantastic way to do it.
Jason, our world is full of politics, and somewhere in between, we have to find our voice and where our voice belongs. And always, the LGBT community, our voices have always not really been heard. They're like, oh yeah, okay, next. Now we're all communicating. We're making a difference. We're helping each other. We're reaching out. We're finally having some sort of a dialogue to have at least, I heard you, or I had a conversation with you. Not necessarily that it really matters, but I exist, I know you exist, and down the road, I won't do anything unless I'm pressured to do it, or it just benefits me or my business or my family. Now, where, for you, I think the key to all of this, like Kitanya said, is you need to set up a GoFund and just go for it. But I want to just say this: if it affects your livelihood and where you are now, with all of your benefits, all of that's going on with you, you need to rethink that if you can't go forth with the GoFund, because like Katanya said, you could raise the money you need for that house.
Yeah, I think that as soon as we get that status, we're going to be cake, because it will lend legitimacy to the project. You know, it's not just some guy thinking that he can pull this off. With that, you know, with the filing with the state of New York and you know everything that comes along with that, we gain some legitimacy to it. We're able to say, hey, you can donate on a nonprofit status now. Things are tax deductible. I'm going to keep receipts like, you know, nobody's business, make sure everything is well documented. So, you know, I think that we'll be okay. But this is a first for me. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate the advice and all the help and support.
Now,
No problem. You're welcome.
Go ahead.
I told him, no problem. You're welcome.
That's right. We're here to help each other, Jason. Now, we're going to get off of the funding. We have a clear, I think Katanya gave you some good information. For me, the next thing you really need to do is create more of an information outlet. Facebook is just not going to do it all on its own. You're going to have to link up with some of these trans organizations, these reach out programs for the marginalized people, for the drag community that you're seeking. You're going to have to reach out to people that you know can make a real difference at the Hummingbird home. You need solid people that have solid lives, that have a solid goal for themselves, and they're willing to help you make your dream come true. And in turn, you are helping others. Now, Katanya, you explained to him what are going to be some of the challenges of, let's just say, the drag performers in the house and the trans performers in the house. What are going to be some challenges for Jason to keep order in this home?
There will be challenges because there are two different genres, right? So they do have the drags and then you have the trans, and they will butt heads because they're not going to see eye to eye. It's just he needs to make sure that whatever ground rules that he's setting for the house, they abide by. And if it's possible that I know it's going to be a house, but segregation, but to say to segregate them would be very bad. But I mean, if you can keep like the trans in one area and them in the other area, but they will still be able to mingle. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if you have upstairs or downstairs or east wing or west wing, whatever the case would be, that way you will help eliminate some of that feuding or some of that headbutting that they may have. But it all comes down to ground rules and education, because if you educate them and let them know, I get it, you may be trans, you may be a drag queen, you may be a queer guy, whatever the case would be, but we all are as one family. So it doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is. If you're living here, we have to live in unity and peace.
Yeah.
So therefore you have to have like workshops, you know what I'm saying, with them.
Absolutely.
Although they're there and they're living there, have workshops with them, you know, you have meetings with them, you find out what issues they're facing. You have to be in their face because there will be issues. You're having issues with them, you may have a suggestion box for them to let them know what issues they're having between themselves or with the house or whatever they're going through at the moment. And as you said, mental health counselors are actually on board to work with you. So
yeah,
that's a good step also. That will be able to help to counteract some of the problems or that may arise during this transitioning period with them.
Perfect. I completely agree. One of the things that we are going to make mandatory if you want to be a part of the collective is conflict resolution classes. Like you have to go through courses to understand what that's all about, and open lines of communication. But you make very valid points. We need to have regular meetings. I need to be open to different sort of, you know, inputs and whatnot. Every performer that's going to be living there is going to have a vote. And when issues arise that anybody has an issue with, we're going to come together and talk about it and things of that nature. So everybody's going to have a voice. Everybody's going to be able to come together. So,
Okay, I have a few suggestions, Jason.
sure.
They're just suggestions. You don't have to take them to heart. I really feel that you say when you're talking, you talk about the performers and the drag queens with more ease because you're used to that. You talk with it with ease. So you're going to have to maybe, I would say, change a little bit in the way you describe. You have to be more, you
Okay.
have to cover it in a wide spectrum so you don't have to say drag performers or enter this and then trans, because when you're talking to people that want to help you, you need to really say the LGBTYT, community. This way we know that it's covered. When you're saying performers and stuff, people look at drag a lot differently than they look at trans.
Sure.
So
Okay.
like she said, you're gonna have to make sure that even though it's kind of the same, it's you need to be able to identify it in one sentence instead of separating it because
Okay.
it's gonna keep you from moving forward.
I agree. I agree.
So if you're going to be professional, with professional people to help you, you've got to learn, just not learn, it's just to identify.
Adopting their appropriate language. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I understand.
Now, Kitanya,
Mhm.
what do you think Jason should do now that he has a clear focus? We've been talking about, the funding, the marginalized group, the homeless group, the reach out programs, the connections, the networking. What do you think he should do now?
Since he has that step in, what is the next major step that you need to focus on in order to get this up off the ground, Jason? What is your next step
Right
that you
now,
have to
right now the filing of the status.
define the status? Okay.
I'm working with a very nice lawyer. Has agreed to represent us, and not only is he going to be instrumental in the intricate filing of this, because the house is in a historical district, and any sort of involvement in this house in particular is going to require jumping through hoops. So I found the lawyer, which is the most important part. He's also going to help me write the bylaws, and
Beautiful.
whomever lives in the collective will also influence the bylaws, but it's nice to have that kind of legal insight into it. He's going to mention things like you that I hadn't thought of before. So I'll be perfectly frank. I'm sort of spinning my wheels right now, just brainstorming until that status gets filed. And once it's granted to me, I feel like a racehorse out of the gate. All of the plans that I have on the burner, these people I need to contact that have been waiting for me to say, start fundraising now, start fundraising now. I've got them on retainer. I just,
Yeah.
my very first hurdle is getting that nonprofit status filed.
Well, it seems you're on the right track. So
I hope so.
the next step. Yeah, you
I've
are.
had nothing but time to think about this. To the point where I'm driving my husband crazy.
You're
Well,
actually on the right track. So
Thank you.
at least you know what your next step is. So that's the best thing to have, or the best thing to do. So
It's really not as
step-by-step.
complicated. I really hope to make it a very simple, as streamlined process as I can. I mean, I realize that there are going to be a lot of intricate parts, but at the heart of it, I basically want to fix up my house enough to house the homeless. That's really all I want to do, and
Amazing.
get
Amazing.
behind that,
Amazing. Yeah.
or they can't. So
You know,
Amazing.
Katanya, I know you do great work at Black Cap. You do great activism work for the girls and the guys, helping everybody navigate information that is good for them. And Jason, I'm glad that you got to meet Katanya. She's very sweet and she's very informative and she can help you a lot. So you should reach out to her.
and you didn't
Anytime,
mention
I'm here.
beautiful.
Thank you.
So, so I'm going to make the show a little bit short today because I think that we hit on some key points that will help Jason. I just want to say thank you, Katanya, for your
You're
input.
welcome.
You're very direct and very clear. Thank you, Jason, for clearing it up for us. about your journey, about, you know, what you want to happen for the Hummingbird Home. It's a great vision. We hope, you know, we're pretty sure you're going to make it come true. And we're glad that you're reaching out to marginalized people that sometimes don't have a voice. And we have to sometimes make our own voice, and we have to help each other, and especially during these times. So I just want to say thank you to so much for doing this show. Katanya, you're beautiful.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason from Plattsburgh, New York. You were amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, on the show today, I had Mr. Jason Sachs and Miss Kitanya Evans from Black Cap, and Jason Sachs from the Hummingbird Home. And today we were just having a little simple discussion and conversation about helping marginalized people bring Jason Sachs' vision to life in Plattsburgh, New York, the Hummingbird Home. And she gave her input, trans activist and Black Cap coordinator, Ms. Kitanya Evans. So thank everybody for being on this show today. Thank you guys so much. Y'all have a great weekend.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.